bit of fiddling there. It's just bringing me to a point. I was talking to one of the fine piano teachers on the peninsula not so long ago, and she's saying, what about breathing a bit of jazz into a piece? How do you do it? You know, she's, and really, it can be as simple as this, that little piece, that's so well known, of course, just quavers and things like that that we're working through there. Turn them into dotted quavers. So instead of, it becomes, and just get into that swing. In a way, you'd have to put the music down, but most people can with little simple bark pieces, and just dotted quaver your way through it, and then relate that to your children. And then, of course, you can bring little jazz influences and movements of chords and little transitions into related minors and things like that. A whole world of fun to be had. Sometimes it, without ruining what the children are doing with their work, it can be a bit of fun because you've got to give them credit for being able to switch from something absolutely staid and true to going into a bit of fun with the same piece. And I don't think the two worlds trouble each other. Andre Previn showed us that. Yeah, so to this particular instrument, another point of interest, Hermann Schröder. It's not, you won't see it in Hall of Fame lists and things like that. It's not a name that rattles off people's tongues much. But these beautiful boutique makers, they make good numbers, but not in the huge mass production of Ronish and Lip, who've made first-class pianos in big volumes. Some of these other instruments, other instrument makers, stuck to their guns and made an instrument which was what they'd imagined a beautiful piano should be. So you get just different flavours from different makers. Hermann Schröder, another famous musician, has owned this for some time. I sold it to Ros Smith, who was Dr. Ros Smith, who did a lot of work for the music departments through Monash, and a lot of opera work, a beautiful singer too. And she's had that, but she had to move into a small apartment. And another example of a fully professional, beautiful musician whose instruments eventually come to me. Not because they love me, it's just that I've tuned them for a long time and then they have to get something different, or they've passed away, you know. So, but Hermann Schröder, so satisfying to play. The richness in the bass, these are true upright grands. They don't stand as tall as you'd imagine often. That's because of the radical cross-stringing, over-stringing of the instruments, where the bass strings travel from here right down to the opposing corner. So if you took those bass strings out and measured them inside, say, a semi-parlour grand, there it is, just about the same length string. Same beautiful timbers in the soundboard when we're dealing with German pianos. So you put that combination together and the workmanship, and you've got a beautiful sounding instrument. Standing upright instead of laying down. Some of the great makers didn't do so well with their grand pianos. It's funny, I won't name names, but some very fine makers of upright pianos, their grands didn't become revered because, basically speaking, they just used the construction of their upright piano and laid it down flat and worked around that basis. And they were sturdy and quite lovely instruments, but haven't really stood the test of time. But something like this, the tone in the bass is just gorgeous, and it's copied right through the instrument. Singing its silly head off, I often think. just they can't help themselves. So Schröder, a boutique maker, don't overlook them. They're every bit as beautiful as the household name instruments, and it's a pleasure when an instrument comes through from one of these lesser known instrument makers who was still part of an important scene, who made beautiful enduring instruments, all the same timbers as the household name makers. But there it is, and we could rattle off all sorts of makers' names who were just as good as the famous ones, often built in the same little district or neighbourhood. Berlin, well, all the great makers from Berlin, everyone was putting a ruler over each other's instruments. What have they come up with? What have they improved? Whatever. So there was no escaping for any piano maker. They were all under great scrutiny from each other, and nobody wanted to be left behind. And they did what was humanly possible to build these instruments. So the details of our little firm are clear to see on this site. So don't hesitate to give us a call. We love matching up people with instruments that just dovetail into what they're hoping to do. Thank you very much.